Hey everybody, Stephen Ryan here. We are sitting down with Cyril from Reverb. If you are a gear tuber like many of us are, you may have seen him on 5 Watt World, chasing tone or dipped in tone over the last few months. I've been talking to Reverb pretty much since we started our Reverb sponsorship on the podcast, about making this happen, built off of the pedal price index, and now just maybe a month or so ago, the guitar price index came out, and Cyril's kind of, I guess, the brains behind all of that. Maybe you might say, I don't know. So, strap in. We're going to be talking about hard, heavy statistics and mathematics for the next hour, and if you hate those things, well, then you should just hang out anyway, and maybe you'll learn something. And if you love those things, then you can jump in the comments and tell us how all the analytics are wrong, and how we're dumb, and how we don't know anything about algebra. I don't know.
I'm expecting to be completely out of my depth in this one. I'm just going to sit back and let you guys talk numbers.
I'm going to preface, I think the Reverb price guides, or rather the price indices are really well put together for
Is that
the
how you
average
say
person
the
to consume.
The plural of indices?
That's how I say it.
All right.
Cyril, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Cyril. I run the analytics and data science team at Reverb. You've been here for a few years, but also lifelong musician, big gear nerd. Been playing guitar since I was in high school. We were talking about, or I was listening to your podcast, in the last few weeks. You guys were talking about, the wrongest thing that you can do with a guitar.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that. And, the first guitar I got, my parents bought it for me, this acoustic guitar, completely unplayable. The string action was, 2 feet off the fretboard. And, I couldn't actually press the strings down on the fretboard to make notes. So the only way I could figure out, what to do was to, twist the tuning pegs to make, different notes, and, try to tune each string kind of independently. And it was pretty terrible. So that was definitely the wrongest thing that I did playing guitar growing up.
Almost like a weird, improvised, GB bender sort of setup.
If only I was that cool.
Right. Like doing some sort of slack key thing there, but you're just trying to play a song.
Yeah, every song you're just like, hold on, I got to retune. Hold on. And that's what
tune to the next chord.
When you're playing live, you feel like you do that anyway because you're so anxious about am I in tune right now?
Yeah.
But then
that's the thing that's wrong. My tuning. It's not the other stuff that I'm doing.
It's not the fact that I'm a terrible songwriter.
Well, I had a huge audience at that point. So
yeah. Your parents maybe.
I don't even think I'd let him in the room when I was playing. It's just going to the bed and try to figure a few things out.
Yeah. So how'd you end up in Chicago?
Yeah. So I grew up in Colorado. Played music there. I actually moved to Chicago shortly after college. I just came out. Packed up my Subaru, had a box full of records, a few guitars, some clothes. No real other plan other than to play in a band with a buddy of mine who we played together in college. He called me up one night and was like, "You should join this band. I'm in. Move out to Chicago." I didn't really know what to do at that point, so I was like, "Okay, sure." Did it. Didn't really know anyone out here, but really fell in love with being in Chicago. And it's a great music city too.
Yeah.
So one of the things we could do when we weren't playing music was buy and sell music gear on Craigslist and eBay. This was long before the Reverb days.
Of course.
So dating.
And you've never used Craigslist or eBay again since, right?
Never since Reverb.
Cold turkey.
Is this is that like a Dave Ramsey situation? If you work for Dave Ramsey and they find out you have a credit card, you get fired. They'll actually fire you for having a credit card. So if you're a Reverb employee and they're like, "We found your eBay account," you get called into HR.
Yeah, we've got a whole team of people who are just looking, monitoring every eBay account, and they're like, "All right,
hunting." Yeah,
we saw Andrew over there. He just set up an eBay account. He's in big trouble.
We found him on OfferUp.
This is the first strike.
He's got a good rating on OfferUp. Get him out of here.
Yeah. No more of that.
Of course, I'm kidding. But.
Of course, we all are, obviously.
How
Right?
big is how big is Reverb from a? I've always just wondered this from like a personnel standpoint. Like how big of a company is Reverb?
Yeah, we've got around 200 people.
Oh
Wow.
wow, that's actually like a lot bigger than I thought it would be. It makes sense for like a really heavy like IT driven company to need them, and IT and customer service really. Uh, but I just had no idea. I know back like 3-4 years ago, Reverb used to show up with a ton of people to NAM, and that was kind of my only gauge for how big the company might have been. You know,
We should have guessed. We should have
Yeah.
guessed and then been proven wrong, because I would have
Should've-
guessed probably like 50 or something.
should have been a game.
Yeah, with the prize.
What's the prize?
Lunch? I don't
Well,
know.
I do have a game for you guys if you
Oh.
want to play.
Do you want to do it now?
Of course.
We can do it now.
Whenever it's good. We don't have to do it right now.
We can do it whenever you want, Cyril.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was thinking, I listen to a lot of these podcasts too, and people are always kind of talking about, different, I don't know, like providing different perspectives on like what's the most popular pedal, what
Mhm.
finishes are more popular, or Strats or, Les Paul's more popular. And we have all this data on, what people are buying and selling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I figured I'd do a little like trivia quiz for you guys.
All right.
And we'll see how you do. No judgment, but then I can give you guys the answers. And I thought it'd be like a little fun.
I'm fine with judgment if you want to
yeah.
judge us.
Yeah. I'm here for all the judgment. So this story still gets brought up every once in a while on Phil McKnight's channel that he and I both took the Sweetwater employee test. So
He's bringing it up again.
I'm supposed to be good at this. I'm supposed to be good at knowing about gear sales.
Steve beat Phil
supposedly.
McKnight at becoming a Sweetwater employee, and he's been insufferable ever since. Like, he just
I'm the
doesn't shut up
worst.
about it. Yeah.
I think these will probably be a little more lighthearted than the Sweetwater test, but you want to just jump into it?
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
All right. First
I'm ready.
one. What's the most popular electric guitar finish or color?
Oh, all electric
Of all
guitars.
electric guitars.
Of all electric guitars.
My
I'm
heart.
gonna okay, you
Go
go
ahead,
first.
Ryan.
I'm
Go
gonna say
ahead.
black.
Yeah, my heart wants it to be 3-tone sunburst or some sunburst, but it's got to be black. Black just feels like it's got to be black.
You should have gone with your heart, Steve.
Really?
Sunburst
Yeah.
is number one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild, because like so many people complain that sunburst is boring. Anytime I cover a sunburst guitar, they're like, "Oh, boring." It's like, I don't know. It seems like they sell. So
It just and also when you go on like used gear marketplaces like Facebook or whatever, it just seems like everything on there is black. But
It
maybe
goes
that's
with
why they're
everything.
like people don't want them. People are getting rid of them in one place and buying 3-tone sunbursts off of Reverb.
I
Yeah.
like a sunburst. I always
That
thought that
surprises
that was an unsurprising. I always thought that was a unpopular opinion when I would say that I like sunburst, but apparently that's the most popular opinion.
Yeah.
I guess I think about what I own, and I think I own 4 sunburst guitars right now. So out
I
of
actually-
like 12, so like 30% of my guitars are sunburst.
I think I only own one right now, and I like them.
So 21% of guitars sold are sunburst.
21%.
Yeah.
That's way higher than I thought it would be.
That's why
I was
there's a
thinking like
sunburst
10.
in every line, right? Like just,
Yep.
I actually figured it would be third. I was thinking it would be black or fourth. For some reason, I was thinking it would be black, white, red, and then
I think
then
white's
sunburst.
probably pretty rare. Where does white lay in this?
We'll get to that one.
Okay. all right.
Okay, all right.
How about the most popular bass finish?
The most popular bass finish.
Yeah, or color. Yeah, finish color.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
some sort of purple color shifting thing.
I feel like this is a trick question, and
I think it's
also-
natural.
it's also sunburst.
I'm saying natural.
Blueberry burst. No, just
Really?
it's
You
black.
had me.
It is black.
Black is bass.
Oh, psyched me out.
Of
Yeah.
course, because bassists always just want to blend in,
Yeah.
just disappear on stage.
So if we go another layer deeper
Mhm.
for Gibson, the most popular Gibson finish is also sunburst. But
Yeah, I was gonna
what's
say
what's number two? What do you think number two is?
That one-
Cherry burst. Is it another burst?
It's not. No, we kind of group all when we looked at this, we grouped, like the different types of sunburst together, like 2-tone, 3-tone, cherry burst. Anything that's kind of in that like shaded sunburst idea.
I think it's either going to be black or cherry. They don't have a lot of colors over there at Gibson.
Oh, yeah. So is this all Gibson? Yeah,
it's all Gibson.
I would say cherry. I would think cherry.
Yep. If I had a little buzzer to say correct answer, you would get it.
Next time.
We did it.
Next time we need a buzzer.
You can edit that in afterwards. Just get like a bunch of people clapping. All right. I've got a few more. Then what's the most popular Fender finish that's not sunburst?
That's where I think I'm going back to white.
I don't know. I think it's got to be black. Like,
I'll accept 2 answers.
If it's not sunburst, to me, white seems like a rarity. Like,
really?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a super common color for some reason.
Every model series, I feel like of Fender guitars, there's always a white. How many white Fenders do you own? You have that Strat? I guess you only have the Strat, right?
Yeah, I've got the Floyd Rose Strat, and I've got the Telly that's in...
You have the Telly.
Yeah.
That's 2 out of like 40 Fenders that you...
I know, right? Well,
Cyril,
I always pick a color.
What color guitars do you have?
What do I have? I've got white. I've got a cherry, kind of red color. I've got, a few sunburst. Trying to think if there's any. Oh, I've got a green, like a teal.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of in this popular. But anyways, the answer for Fender, white is, you could call that number 1. The other option is blue and greens. Like blue and green are a little bit hard to distinguish.
Sure.
Where blue starts and green ends.
So whites win it? That's wild.
White, yeah.
Blue I can see, especially because if you put Squire with Fender, like in the 90s, every Bullet series had that cobalt blue color that it kind of actually, in my opinion, it ruined cobalt blue as a color. Like anytime I see any guitar of any price point in cobalt blue, I'm like, that guitar sucks.
Yeah. Also, metallic reds and blues got ruined by the budget guitars of the 90s and 2000s, where it was like, okay, every budget Strat pack is metallic blue or red, and just kind of ruined it for it.
But before we go to the next question, I'm actually kind of curious if in all of the electric guitar analytics, if you've ever tried to group guitar value based on color.
On color? I haven't looked at it based on color.
Like,
but that would be pretty interesting.
It would be, to see like, what's worth more, blue Fenders or red Fenders? Like, what sells for more?
Right. What sells more often? And maybe not even what's worth more, but what sells. I mean, if we're going by popularity, then that probably just answers that. Like if sunbursts and white Strats sell more often, then and blue, they're going to sell more often. Huh.
Yeah. If I had to guess too, I think that any of the colors that are more like vintage, like associated with vintage, are going to be the ones that command a higher price.
Yeah.
Like I bet for Gibsons, it's going to be sunburst and red, cherry, right? Like the iconic, guitars. I guess a Black Beauty or some things in there too. But now I'm going to have to do this after I get off the podcast.
Right. You're going to have to get into like all the little tiniest details after all of this. We're going to be like, oh, well, which humbucker rings sell best, Well, white or cream or black?
That's metallic? A good lineup for the next one, which is what's the most common pickup configuration?
Oh man. Most common. I'm going to say HSS.
Really? I would just say straight up HH. Everybody makes an HH.
I guess that's true. If we're talking about most common across all brands, makes and models.
Yeah,
Steve's probably right. It's probably HH.
Yep. Ding, ding, ding. HH. Man.
Suck it, Ryan.
Then what about the fretboard material? So what's more popular?
Oh, rosewood.
Rosewood or
across the board.
I would say rosewood.
Yeah,
that's everyone wants that.
No,
twice as popular.
should be ebony.
It's
We
twice
all
as
want ebony.
popular.
Yeah.
Well, ebony is what you get if you got a little extra money, you know. Like,
Yeah.
but you're still thinking about rosewood when you get
But
an
what's-
ebony fretboard.
What's funny is, you know, I talk to people all the time who are like purists on this stuff. So when Fender comes out, you know, with the new lineup and they don't have the color fretboard combo that they want, they're like, oh, why didn't they make a green with maple or green with rosewood or whatever? They're like, I'm out. Like, I
Right.
only buy green guitars with this fretboard, and if they don't make it, like, I'm done. Screw that company. Like,
Do you guys have a? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you have a preference? Like, are you all maple or all rosewood?
I like to have both.
My
You know, porque no los dos.
Yeah, my heart wants to say maple, but I own way too many rosewood or otherwise, you know, guitars to actually defend that preference.
I love the way maple looks, and I do like the bright kind of like twangy feel
Yeah,
that it gives you. But rosewood is just like it just gets it done, you know? Like it's just acceptable in all situations. So sometimes maple's a little bit too spanky, I think. But if you want spanky, there it is. But I think most people probably just prefer I guess just the sort of averaged out sound and feel that you get from rosewood is predictable.
Yeah, it's like more reliable or something.
Right. It's like an old sweater. It's like, rosewood. I know what that's going to be like.
Snuggle up with it next
Yeah,
to
exactly.
the fireplace, and there you
Yeah,
are.
it's like that big comfy blanket. And that's why people get so mad when Palfero comes along. They're like, it's like some sort of weird micro fleece. It's not like my old blanket.
Oh, people are so mad at Palfero and Indian Laurel.
Right.
Like, anyway, sorry.
It's religion.
Yeah.
Carry on. Let's.
All right, I got just a few more. This one I've got some props for. What's more popular, the rat or the
Oh.
tube screamer?
Oh, I bet I'm going to go Tube Screamer.
It should be the rat, but it's probably the tube screamer.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to agree with that assessment too, but it's probably the Tube Screamer.
Is it really?
Rat.
No way.
Wow.
With a caveat.
Okay.
Okay.
If you look at just individual pedals,
Mhm.
the rat is more popular than any individual tube screamer. But then there's a bunch of variations of tube screamers.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
like the Mini, the 808, you know, the
And then-
TS9.
If you get into all like the boutique variations and stuff like that, there's a lot of rats, but I'm sure there's more Tube Screamers.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of tube screamers.
I think the
Yeah.
rat 2, so the one that you held up is the rat 2, I think,
Yep.
has basically been made continuously since the mid 80s or maybe 1988, I want to say, somewhere around there. So that's versus like, yeah, you got Ibanez has made the 808 off and on. I guess they made the TS9 pretty continuously, but
Yeah.
TS9.
I don't want to look at a map of every Tube Screamer ever made. I'm sure it just never ends. Like if you had a map, it would update constantly as like new Tube Screamers appear on the fringes, the borders of the territory. You know?
I bet Zach over at Mythos has that drawn out. He's got a chart.
A Tube Screamer map?
Yeah. Here's a bar chart. Here's when this one existed.
Like a
and then
family
here's when
tree?
This one existed.
I mean,
An
between
evolutionary diagram of some sort.
yeah, yeah, I feel like between Zach and Josh, you know, JHS, like they've got to know every single tube screamer that's ever been put into production. But all right, I just got two more.
Sure.
What's the most popular type of modulation? Flanger, chorus, tremolo, or phaser?
I want it to be tremolo, but I have a feeling it's chorus.
Yeah, it's my gut says chorus, but I'm gonna go with phaser. I'm gonna say that the EVH heads are dominating reverb and buying every phaser.
Chorus is number one.
I knew it.
So Ryan, you're right. Phaser's number two,
Okay.
but that switched in 2019. Tremolo used to be number two,
Really?
kind of in the early days up
Huh.
until 2019, 2020. Then phasers overtook tremolos, and flanger's always been last.
Yeah, flanger sucks.
Poor flanger. Poor flanger.
I'm trying to think if some like what if there was like a musical trend around there that was just using a lot of phaser. I mean, I guess maybe just
Was that the year of the phaser?
The year of the phaser was 2019.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Aaron was right. Our
remember.
buddy Aaron had a guitar podcast, and he declared like 3 years in a row year of the phaser.
Well, I think he was right.
He was right one of those years.
But I was trying to think of that too. Like, what drove this kind of shift from tremolo to phaser? I couldn't think of it off the top of my head.
I mean, thinking about it, that might have been around the time you started getting a lot more lo-fi, like lo-fi beats to chill and study to or whatever, and people kind of making that sort of music with the guitar in their bedroom. And so maybe I can see phaser being a lot more applicable there than tremolo.
Maybe tremolo had a hot couple of years from like all the kind of like vintagey aesthetic, like stop clamp sort of bands, you know, like that are going for like this old school kind of like Western sort of vibe. And then as that backed off, phaser just kind of rose up in the ranks.
Yeah. I don't know. But another thing that I feel like I've got to go and research a little bit after this podcast. You guys are just creating a bunch of work for me.
Yeah. That's what we do. I'm not sorry.
All right, last one. Best-selling reverb pedal on Reverb of all time.
Oh,
Best reverb on Reverb of all
Strymon Blue
time.
Sky. I don't know how it could be anything besides the Blue Sky. It's gonna blow my mind if it's something that's not the blue, or
it could be
a
like
Boss
the Flint.
RV5. You think is a Flint a reverb? I guess.
Yeah, it's a reverb and tremolo.
That's.
But
a good
what if
one
it's
too.
what if it's just like a holy grail or something like that? It could just be an Electro-Harmonix reverb of some sort, like an Ocean's 11 or something.
I don't know. I'm sticking with Blue Sky.
I think you're probably. I think I'm going to counter with the Flint.
You're both very close. It's the Big Sky.
The Big Sky.
Oh!
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, we were almost there.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
I'm trying to remember too if there's I can't remember if there's a V2 of the Big Sky or if they've only done one version of that.
And of course, that's going to be popular in the resale world.
Yeah.
Like people can be like, let's see if I can get that a little cheaper than new. Do they pay cheaper than new, or are people paying over?
No, you can get some good deals on a Big Sky.
Yeah, there was the Big Sky, and I think the version 2 was the Big Sky MX.
Yeah,
which is
the
I don't know if
Mexican
it's
Big
a true
Sky.
version 2 because it's
$200
more. Yeah, it was the Big Sky with some sauce.
It's got some cumin in it, you know.
But I was just thinking that because the Blue Sky might be more popular if you combine like the V1 and the V2. But I don't know. So, anyways,
the Big Sky makes sense. That makes sense.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Thanks for playing along.
I'm gonna need to think about this more. Think about my life.
Steve just wants to figure out how to study so he can beat it next time.
I know. I've never owned a Strymon pedal.
Really?
Yeah.
You only rented, huh?
I've only leased. So, do you have a favorite pedal company, Cyril? Do you have a brand that you just seem like you, whether it's intentional or otherwise, just buy over and over again?
You know, I'm going to give like the most boring answer, but Boss. I just love Boss pedals. I don't know. I mean, I've got of course, like a bunch of other stuff. I've got some Strymon and, Electro-Harmonix and Earthquaker and all that. I love all those pedals, but it's just really nice when you get, 3 or 4 Boss pedals. They all do exactly what you want them to do. They fit on your board perfectly. I don't know. They're just super reliable.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't argue with a good Boss pedal. And then like once it becomes part of your rig, it's like, well, I'm dedicated to this thing now. Why would I replace it? I've got my SD1 here. Why would I need anything else?
I mean, there's something to be said. It's a formula that works, and people talk about it as much as like it's feels like an unfair argument. You know, every once in a while, the John Frusciane's 2025 Red Hot Chili Peppers tour pedal board comes up, and there's not a single pedal on there that wasn't being made in the 90s. Like,
Right.
it's still like, you know, it's Boss SD1s and DD whatevers and whatnot, and MXR phasers. It's all there's there might be one or two boutique category or high end, what we would call a high end pedal. Um, but it's a lot of those tried and true classics that
Like I get
you know
so
we don't
many
think
like
of.
really wild delay pedals into demo, and they're all
Mm.
a ton of fun. But if you surprise me like, hey Ryan, you got a gig in an hour, you got to grab some pedals, I'm just gonna grab a DD3.
Yeah.
Like that's I know it inside and out. I know exactly where the sweet spots are. I know exactly like how to dial in my sounds with it. Like just DD3, and I'd be happy forever. You know.
Yeah. So Cyril, you sent us a slide deck. Do we want to get into that now?
Sure,
Is
let's get
now
into it.
better than ever?
Now it's better
Um,
than ever.
I'm gonna have down in the description below links to the guitar price index and the pedal price index for folks who want to dive in a little deeper. The pedal price index was just like so fascinating to me, and seeing the way brands trended and things. But yeah, let's check out this Reverb price index slide deck that you put together. Got a nice title slide here with
Yeah.
reverb, that reverb orange in the background. We're going to critique it as we go along as well. So
Is that orange? It looks yellow on my side.
yellow, orange, orange,
Okay,
yellow.
Steve. We'll fight about colors later.
This is like that sunburst thing earlier, like 3-tone sunburst, 2-tone sunburst. What is it? Cherry burst.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's one of the colors in the Reverb brand approved color guide. So
Ah,
Yeah.
there we go.
That's how you know when you're working for a real organization, when you got color guides.
Yeah, exactly.
Pantone's the whole business.
Yeah, yeah. But it makes the site look very beautiful and nice.
Of
And
course.
yeah.
it's great. So, anyways, let's talk about this electric guitar price index.
Mhm.
Maybe before I even get into it, just to give a little bit of background on what this index is. Uh, as I mentioned, like I'm a data nerd, I'm a gear nerd. We've had this price guide for years, so I think most
Right.
people will probably be familiar with the price guide, which is a tool that we've again had for years that tracks the price of an individual product. So
Mhm.
I can see how much my Highway 1 Telecaster or JC 120 is worth, and how the price of that individual item has changed over time. But what we found is it was actually really hard to understand how overall used prices have trended. And I was just like curious to see, how the overall market has moved. And,
Mhm.
when things were more volatile, which kind of creates some specific, say, like buying or selling opportunities, or when prices are more stable, which, just it's kind of like things are more predictable and easier to buy something and know you can sell it later for, about the same price.
Right.
So that's kind of the impetus behind why we wanted to build this price index.
Mhm.
And, in terms of what it is, it's, uh, we were using all this transaction data that we have on Reverb. And, again, we really wanted to follow the overall trends. And so you can kind of think of it like a stock market index, something like the S&P 500, which, looks at, basket of stocks. In the
Mhm.
case of the S&P 500, it's the top 500 companies. Our index is similar, but it's the top 142 used electric guitars. So we take all those guitars, we standardize, the pricing, and we measure those movements over time. And we wanted to start in 2019, to kind of give us like a pre-pandemic, little bit more
Of
of a
course.
normal period.
Mhm.
And then we've been tracking it up through August of this year.
Okay. So when you're talking about normalizing the price, let's say just to run some like number off the top of my head, let's say the Squire Classic Vibe, right? I would guess the typical um used price on that, from what I've seen lately, the typical used price is probably like $375. you would just take that $375 and now that's 1,000 points.
Exactly.
And then if the
Oh,
price
okay.
goes up 10%, then it would be now 1,100 points. So if it went from say 375 to 410, that's about 10%.
So
Then
this
it would move
chart's
from 1,000 to 1,100.
this chart's showing points. It's not showing dollar value.
It's showing points. Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at this like, oh, is this saying that like just the average price of an electric guitar right now is $1,200? No, that's the points.
Yeah.
I see.
It for the guitars, it actually works out where it's, you know, not too far off from where
Sure.
the points are. But
Yeah.
yeah, part of the challenge if you're using the dollar value is, as you described, Steve, you know, you've got
Mhm.
Squires that are, you know, $200 or $300, and then we've got, you know, a PRS custom 24 top 10 or 10 top in there, you know, that's $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah.
And you want a way to be able to look at all of those, you know, kind of together. And what we tried to also control for is, you know, if less expensive guitars just get more popular, we don't want that to bring the price of the index down. So
Mhm.
actually everything, all the instruments are weighted, kind of, they have the same weighting throughout the whole period. So it's weighted based on the popularity.
Gotcha.
You know, so for example, like an American standard Strat is going to be weighted more heavily than, I don't know,
Mhm.
a Kramer Beretta Special, which, you know,
Right.
has lower order volume.
This
Right.
sounds very complicated.
It's interesting to think about the index that way. If you look at, if you're just, when you're indexing individual guitars, and this is a spoiler for a couple slides down, I guess, but it's a perfect example, is the Squire Hello Kitty Strat, where it would have normalized at 1,000 points in 2019 at $200. So if you take that index out, and again, correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but effectively, I think those sell for around $700 now. So just would the index value for that model by itself, would that be like 3,000?
Yeah,
Because it's gone up
exactly.
about three and a half fold actually. Like, so now again, like because of the weighting in there, there's probably not a ton of those moving. So then it would be, if it was included in that 140 guitars, it would be a very light weight on there. But okay, I just want to make sure I understand it, and I'm hopefully explaining it in a way that makes sense by using kind of real world numbers. If you don't understand it and you're in the comments, leave a comment and say, Steve, I'm bad at math, help me understand this, and I'll just, I don't know, maybe I'll
Yeah,
help.
definitely don't call on me.
But
But you're
okay,
right. You're right, Steve, in terms of your interpretation of it. Just in the same way that, you know, like a stock index, there's some
right,
stocks that are going to, you know, triple or quadruple in value, and some that are going to lose value.
yeah.
And, you know, those individual stocks are usually outliers compared to the overall, you know, movement of, say, like the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones.
So how do I invest in the electric guitars index?
I don't know, Ryan, we might get to the end of this and you decide I do
Right.
not
Is
want
it-
to invest in the
Is this on
electric guitar.
Robinhood or can?
I don't know. Maybe we need a like used guitar ETF or something.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can
Like,
all-
can we turn this into a crypto of some sort?
This feels like that there's that congressional ETF that just, there's a Democrat ETF and a Republican ETF that tracks the stock trades of like the Congress people who are big time traders. So there's one that basically follows, I think it's mostly Nancy Pelosi's trading portfolio, and there's one that tracks, I think it's pretty much Ted Cruz's trading portfolio. So if you want to have the same investments as one of those people, you can just buy this ETF. It's very goofy.
If we wanted to turn this into a bit that we couldn't publish, we could talk about which electric guitar brands we want to short.
Oh my gosh. Maybe we can do some insider. Is there any way we can get analytics ahead of when the rest of the trend does? Like,
You want to Martha Stewart it?
Ryan, you got to buy this guitar right now because based on the Reverb trends in 6 months, it's going to go up
Right,
30%.
Yeah.
I wish I had that crystal ball.
Sell, buy.
Oh. All right. And whenever you want to go to the next slide, just let me know. Just like
Yeah.
a presentation.
Yeah, so this is kind of the overall arc of how the prices has trended. If you go to the next
Mhm.
one, there's kind of like a few real um, distinct periods that we saw,
Mhm.
which probably
Mm,
won't surprise anyone here. But
Yeah.
yeah.
if you look at the overall kind of arc of the story, right, like pre-COVID, 2019 into early 2020, prices were pretty stable.
Mhm.
They were increasing a few percentage points a year, and this was pretty normal based on the historical trends. Then you go into the pandemic era, 2020 really up through kind of mid 2022, and that's where we saw this crazy increase in the
Yeah.
prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all lived through it. We all know demand was high, due to the combination of stimulus checks and being stuck at home, and watching everyone do their YouTube videos and give you that
Right.
kind of like gear lust.
It's either bake bread or play guitar. Those were the options.
Well, you just described my household because my wife bakes the
Yeah.
bread and I play the guitar. So, uh, yeah. So, anyways, as a result of this kind of like supply and demand econ 101, right?
Mhm.
Demand was
Yeah.
high, supply was low, prices increase. The result was average used prices peaked at about 35% compared to where they
Wow.
were in 2019. Yeah, big increase.
Yeah.
Should have sold
Then,
a lot more back then, honestly. Why did I keep anything? Should have sold it all.
yeah,
2002,
but then you wouldn't have had as much fun.
2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and then you get the post-pandemic period. That's
Mhm.
when, prices started to fall from that peak. This was driven by supply really like returning just as the surge in demand was cooling off. So, prices came down by about 4 to 5% per year. And now we're kind of in what I call like the stabilization period, where prices are much more steady and actually look to be trending similar to what we saw in the pre-COVID period.
Right.
So
Yeah.
kind of like this better equilibrium between supply and demand.
Mhm.
And you know,
Like, things were already headed up, but then COVID kind of gave you a big speed bump there. And if looking at that incline there pre-COVID, I could see how that could eventually meet up with the period that we're in it with right now. If things had kept going up and
Ryan,
up
you
and
want to
up.
see the craziest graph?
I do. Show me the craziest graph. There it is. Oh my gosh. I knew it.
Sorry if I jumped the gun a little there. I got a little excited too.
this
Yeah.
is where we need the little dinger around
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You got the answer right again, Ryan.
I
But
get a treat.
this is really fascinating actually to see, and this is something that I think a lot of people on in our audience, like in audiences I've seen, like don't really seem to understand it. And of course, I've seen the comments on other videos and in other places where people talk about like, oh well, yeah, you can sell this guitar for a little bit more, this pedal for a little bit more, but the price of bread and the CPI and all this other stuff with inflation. We've kind of always argued that the big brands, and I don't know if you the data reflects this, that the big brands, the prices don't really go up or down, like Fender, Gibson, Music Man, whatever. Um, it's only like individual models that tend to be like investment pieces. But I think in the course of the pandemic, a lot of musicians all of a sudden started seeing these prices go up, especially on vintage gear.
Mm.
And all of a sudden it was like guitars are an investment, like to justify things. I don't know. It's a strange thing, but really like my guess is if what how long has Reverb been collecting this data? This kind of data.
We've really been collecting, the transaction history since we started. So,
Right. I,
since 2013, it probably got to the critical mass where we can really read like the trends
mhm.
starting in 2015, 2016, around that
Yeah.
time
So
period.
I would guess without having the knowledge, and maybe we're just giving you more and more work. But I would guess if you went and took the data as far back as you could go, that this line would still be pretty close to what you would see.
And you could probably forecast out pretty far. And you're like, hey, you want to wait until 2076 to buy a guitar? This is what it'll probably cost. You know.
Yeah, a used guitar on Reverb in 2076 will cost. Let's see, it's 6 years, 76 years, so it's going to go up another 3. I don't know what that number is. I can't do it.
I was rooting for you. I thought you were going to have a real number for us.
I don't want to. If I broke out a pen and paper, I could.
Of course.
That was going to be the 10th question on the quiz, but I decided to leave it on.
How much will Les Paul cost in 2076? And it's a sunburst.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Steve, I think you're right too. We talked about, I guess, like a number of things that we wanted to look at with this price index.
Mm-hmm.
How to normalize the prices, what products to include, how to account for inflation. We actually created a whole council, so there's a handful of experts within Reverb who we got input from as we were putting this together. But yeah, we decided not to adjust the index for inflation, really just to simplify the interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other things is, if you look at inflation, you can talk about like core inflation, but if you can actually look at it by different categories. So the inflation rate for food versus gas versus cars is all different. So it just makes it a little more complicated when you.
We talked about that. Oh, go ahead.
My dad likes to simultaneously argue that the gas prices in California, where Ryan and I are, the gas prices are too high. We do have like an extremely high gas tax. I forget what it is, like 60, 70 cents per gallon. But then, 5 minutes later, he will argue that if you track inflation, like general inflation back like 50 years, that the gas prices in California are exactly where they're supposed to be. So if you're like, look at, 99 cents a gallon or whatever in 1980, and you stretch it out to now, it's right around $4.
Yeah.
So inflation's very goofy.
It can get real messy because there's, for lack of a better term, there's cultural shifts in things that have value. Like housing is not kept track with guitars. Like guitars and apparently gasoline have kept a fairly predictable track. But things like housing and education and medical costs and stuff like that, things like that come into play where like other things like household electronics are cheaper than they've ever been. You want to go buy a TV, it's free. You don't even have to pay anymore. Like TVs are free now, basically.
Yeah, TVs are, it's ridiculous.
Where it used to be like a TV was a mortgage payment.
I teased this a little earlier. The Squier Hello Kitty Stratocaster.
Yeah, so this was the guitar that had the wildest price movement during this period that we tracked, which I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. I was kind of surprised when I saw it, but we actually even did an article. I did this interview with The Guardian in like 2021 or 2022 about like the rise of popularity of this guitar. But it's both the price movement up and the price movement down. So yeah, you kind of teased this earlier, but these were selling for $250 in 2019. In 2022 and 2023, they were over $1,000. People were paying for them. So that's 4x the price.
Yeah, I remember when I think Guitar Center blew these out at $99.
The world wasn't ready for them yet.
Yeah,
they were ahead of the time, I guess. But
then
they came down 34% on a year-over-year basis between 2024 and 2025. Still $750, so well above where they were selling in 2019. But it was just kind of like the arc of this guitar was off the charts compared to anything else. And
have you seen with Fender doing that limited reissue of this? Has there been an impact on the price? I mean, that's probably some of what pulled it down from being over $1,000 back to, like you said, like $700-800. But has there been any further degradation in price, or does it just look stable there now?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right that, when Fender, kind of released some of the reissues, essentially, that helped to bring the price down, just because it added some more, supply and inventory into the market. Because before, it was only these. I think they were made in what, like the mid 2000s when they
Yeah, something
originally
like that.
issued these. Yeah, so that was kind of the craziest single instrument that we had
I
on
think all
on
the
Reverb.
just all the metal guys just wanted to be silly. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's it. Like everyone who I saw who was buying them and playing them, they were all like chugga chugga shredders. You know, like it was like this perfect moment of this release of irony that they needed. They
And
needed
Ryan,
a
we
little
just talked about
silliness in their
this.
life.
We just talked about this on a recent episode. This is a hardtail, so it's
Yeah.
perfect for all those death metal guys who don't want a tremolo.
Mm-hmm. It's really rare to come across a Strat with a hardtail these days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is a functional element as well, but mostly I think just metal guys wanted to be silly.
So if you go to the next slide on here,
Yeah.
good segue actually. One of the other like categories of guitars that did really well were artist signature guitars, and in particular some of the metal guitars.
Uh-huh.
So like the Dimebag Daryl Deans, the EVH guitars, not pictured on here, but like the ESP, James Hetfield, the Steve Vai,
Yeah.
Gem, and those ones in particular over the last 12 months have increased in value by about 15%. And one of the things I was wondering about, because we kind of saw a spike, in the last like 2 months, is if it's related to Ozzy's final show. A lot of these guys were, like
yeah.
either the guitars were featured, Zakk Wylde played a bunch of these Dimebag guitars when he was on stage. So that could have been part of the driver.
It could be. We have a friend who worked in the setup department for a local retailer, and he would just say like, yeah, I'm setting up a Dimebag pretty much every day. Like these things sell more than everything. Like it's just a popular model. Like everyone wants a Dimebag for some reason.
Yeah. Is this last one on here? Is that a Johnny Marr?
That's the Johnny Marr.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's another one that has
I wanted
done
one of the
well.
when they did those in yellow. I wanted one of those so bad, just because I wanted a yellow Jaguar.
Yeah, they're really cool.
That's interesting though that you're seeing a rise in values for signature instruments. Like that feels a bit like maybe people outside of the guitar playing world are trying to buy memorabilia to a certain extent.
Yeah, that might be one of the reasons that they're
I'm sure it's not the
value.
whole reason, but maybe it's part of it. Like you get just enough people are like, well, I've got adult money to throw around now, and I want to celebrate the music of my youth, and so I'm going to get a Van Halen guitar to hang on my wall or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And they just like you look at these guitars, and they just look different.
Oh,
right?
totally.
Yeah.
It's not. And if you want to skip to the next one, like on the opposite end of the spectrum was the most stable prices. The guitar that actually had the least price change was the Fender American Professional, Strat and Tele. They've basically been $1,000 between 2019 and 2025. Almost no price fluctuations.
That's fun.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you get a little bit of both sides of the story on this one.
When we first started this show back in 2014, we would often use Mexican Strats as kind of just the to kind of just set the bar for current guitar values. Like, in 1998 a Mexican Strat was worth this much, and now in 2014 it's worth this much, and it's like we used it as the litmus test to judge everything else against. So that's interesting to hear that an American Strat is so stable.
Yeah. So just kind of like the bread and butter of the guitar world at this point. And then, go ahead.
No, I was going to say they're solidly built. Like, people who, this is always the tricky thing is when, again, I don't advise trying to buy guitars as investments. I know people who have done it and done it well with like those Gibson limited runs and things like that. Um, but I
It's
would
so hard
say
to
like
know what's
actually
going to go up, you know?
thinking about something being price stable in shorter lengths of time, and 6 years really is like a really relatively short length of time. The Stratocaster being price stable during that point, to me, actually makes it seem like a better, like, kind of a better potential investment, because when you think about going back, 30, 40 years or whatever, uh, the prices on these guitars probably from 1965 to 1971 were very stable as well. And so I think also a lot of times when people think about the prices, they want to see those jumps, like what's the guitar that I can buy that's going to do the Hello Kitty thing that I can turn around and 5 or 10 years or whatever. Not even with that, not thinking about the fact that those Hello Kitty guitars were made 20 years ago, and
Right.
the prices going nuts didn't happen until
This
2019, 2020.
buying guitars as investment pieces is such a goofy move in my opinion because it's so hard to store them, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
just buy stocks. Like they barely fill up any physical space in your life, you know?
All
if you're
my
gonna if you're gonna like the investment is in yourself. The investment is in your enjoyment. Like
yeah.
when you start buying guitars, like, oh, this will be worth this much more in 50 years. Like, you don't know that. You can't know for sure. Most guitars, if you're lucky, will just hold value against inflation. You know, so
I think there's a lot to be said for, when people talk about, oh, I bought this used, and when I sold it, I took a $10, $20, whatever loss on it. It's like, well, then you rented it for $20 for
yeah,
how long?
that's crazy.
Did you enjoy that time, or are you mad that ultimately you lost $20 or whatever? Did you hate
Right.
the 12 months that you owned it?
And
No.
I mean, Reverb has a lot to do with this, but just the online marketplace, the used marketplace, and the used scene for guitars is so strong that it's easy to convince ourselves like, oh yeah, you know what, I could buy that $3,000 guitar, and if I sell it in 10 years, it'll be like I rented it for $400, which is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And just the availability to other people that will buy things has a lot of influence over that. It's given people a lot of confidence in buying guitars that normally they probably might have held off on, I'm sure.
Yeah. And the other thing I think about is if you compare it to almost anything else you buy, you know, clothes, cars,
Right.
computers, most things just lose a ton of value after
I
you've
bought a
purchased it.
I bought a hamburger a couple days ago. It is worthless now.
Yeah.
No, I keep trying to sell it. No one wants it.
I spent $4 on a hamburger, and it's barely worth shit now.
Yeah, worst investment ever.
Had to make that joke. Well, I mean, talking about the car thing, man, like,
Oh yeah.
I just bought a new car, new to us car. It's a little used, but the
What year
car
is
that
it?
we're replacing, I think, was, we paid in after fee, your interest on the loan and all that stuff. I think we paid like $24,000 for it, and I'm probably going to end up selling it to some junkyard for like $500.
Yeah, I donated
And
my
then I'm going
last
to turn
car
that
to a,
$500 into a couple guitar pedals, maybe. I don't know.
I donated my last car to the jazz radio.
Yeah.
Like that I turned that guitar into jazz.
That's a good
That's
way to
a worse investment.
I know.
They're making bad music with that.
I know.
Thing.
Why don't they just play the right notes?
Yeah. You want to go to the next slide?
Yeah. So kind of the last thing is,
Sure.
we looked at the overall trends, and then, if you break it down by, different brands or really like the vintage market, there's a little bit of a different story, particularly with the vintage side. The overall arc looks similar. The
Yeah.
peak was higher. Prices were 50-60% higher than they were in 2019. And, those price levels have stayed higher than the overall market, which kind of no surprise, right? Again, thinking about the supply and demand piece, they're not going to make any more, 60s pre-CBS Fenders at this point. So
Mhm.
what's out there in existence is what's there, and slowly they're probably going to disappear, and or at least get kind of remade and repaired, and go through different hands. So the vintage instruments just tend to hold their value even
Yeah.
better over the long run, kind of as you guys were saying
Mhm.
before.
This is interesting to me to see that PRS line. I mean, first of all, the way the chart starts out with points, everything's starting off at the same spot, right? Like
Right.
Yep.
you're not going to see things start at different spots. But I've long suspected that most of PRS's market is people who want to buy new stuff, and so like they want the new model, they want the hot new finish. Like
Mhm.
that's kind of where the PRS fandom tends to lay. They don't want things that have dings and dents and stuff like that. So it is interesting to see that line lay a little lower than the others.
I think there could be a few. I mean,
I
I think there
obviously
could be a
there's
few
exceptions.
reasons,
Yeah.
things that drive it down. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on why PRS kind of bucks the trend a little?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, part of it too is that PRS has just been, more stable during this time. They
Mm,
didn't see the same increase in the pandemic, but they also haven't, like, the prices haven't fallen as
Right.
much post
sure.
pandemic. So, with any of these indexes, part of it depends on where you start, right? And
Right.
if you start a little bit further into this cycle, PRS might actually look like it's doing better because it hasn't fallen quite as much as some of the other
Well,
guitar
I
Yeah.
other
True.
brands.
I'd be curious to see a chart from PRS as far as, or from traditional retailers showing the sales statistics for new PRSs. Like I have a suspicion that it would counter what we're
Mm.
seeing here, because I think people who shop PRS, they want that new car smell experience. I think that's part of the culture of the fandom of the brand. Where on a resale site like Reverb, then it's going to look a certain way.
Yeah,
That's my suspicion, anyways.
and also keep in mind these are just the prices. They're not. It's not necessarily the volume
Of
of
course,
Right.
of course,
sales
yeah,
either. So
My actual thought on PRS is that they don't really have a lot of. They don't revamp the line very often. So in not
maybe, yeah,
revamping the line, when you look at Fender, some of these prices are going to be driven by, Ampro versus Ampro 2, Vintera versus
right.
Vintera 2.
Did they come out
Where
with a color that I like?
Yeah, whereas I feel like the PRS, S2 line has been running for like 15 years now. They kind of have their core, the custom 24 and the CE 24. They've been making those for 30 years with some, they changed the pickups out and stuff and whatnot, but the basic feature set hasn't changed as much as, the how many versions of the Fender American Standard have there been
Right.
in the last 15 years? Everything's in 15-year chunks. I don't know why. That's how my brain works.
Sure,
Actually, I know exactly why. It's because that's how old the podcast is.
yeah.
that's what it is.
I mean,
But
I guess the one thing that has changed with PRS is more of the introduction of the SE series,
yeah,
which
that's true.
you know also just offers kind of like a more affordable way to get
Mhm.
in to like the PRS brand that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't available as widely, I would say, in 2019, 2020.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually would an increase in the popularity of the PRS SEs drag the overall numbers down if it's just looking at dollar amount totals?
In this case, it wouldn't because of the way that we're doing the weighting,
Oh, okay.
but indirectly, it may have an impact on like the models that are included in the index.
Hmm.
If you're introducing some essentially like lower cost or budget options, that
Hmm.
may also like decrease the resale value of some of the like more traditional models that
Yeah.
were available. So
Now here's a question that I have. How is vintage defined? Like where does that start? Like as far as, is it like a 25-year rule, or is it some other criteria?
yeah, the hotly debated vintage definition.
Yeah.
uh, in this case, we're generally looking at things that were before produced before 1990.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. I'm old.
No,
so
you're vintage.
so
So about 35 years.
yeah, there's some things that may have crept into the like early 2000s, but it's generally guitars from the 60s, 70s, 80s, early
Sure.
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the general cutoff that we've used.
Out of production and desirable. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of how we think about vintage typically.
Yeah,
I'd be
totally.
very interested to see how that chart progresses over the next like 2 decades, as we're seeing, people who have nostalgia, personal hands-on nostalgia for the guitars of the 60s and the 70s, and even the 80s kind of moving into being out of the market, for the nicest way to say that. I'd be interested to see if younger generations are as interested in vintage instruments down the road.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is we will do a follow-up video to this
Right.
in 2045.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, I'm marking my calendar.
Every
All right.
10 years, let's check in with each other and see where we're at. But I think that's all very interesting. Like to think about it further out, like what will affect, the outlook of the market.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I think kind of the cultural element of guitar and the various generations and their interactions with guitars is going to somewhat shape that. And we're like, what is defined as vintage might shift and change over time. We might see a point in the future where a 60s guitar is just a museum piece. We're like, oh, that's not vintage anymore. That's just like, it belongs in a museum sort of moment. Like it's not something that you can even acquire. It just needs to be preserved, or it just won't matter anymore. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll shift over time. And if anything too, like, again, that definition of what's vintage will just, kind of stretch, right? And include, some of the like PRSs that have been created. Like at some point, the Silver Sky is probably going to be,
Right.
considered a vintage guitar.
What's going to
Right.
be interesting is when all the Fender reissues and the Gibson reissues become vintage themselves, and then they start making reissues of the reissues. Like, oh, this is a 9359 reissue. You know?
I mean, Fender kind of already has that problem. Like I've seen that a lot in the as kind of like a Japanese Fender, somewhat of an enthusiast. I used to be a bigger enthusiast, but a lot of the stuff in the 80s are, someone will say, "Oh, I got this guitar," and I'm looking at them like, this is a Fender, it's a Fender Japan. It's a 1986, 72 reissue.
Yeah.
Because
Right,
Fender
right.
Japan started doing all those reissues in the 80s, and it's the same. So actually, even
That
with
means
that,
it's double vintage.
with that Mexican 72 reissue that you got, it got a little screwy trying to figure out what exactly I was looking at, because when I went on Reverb trying to figure out exactly what model is, there was both a Fender Japan and a Fender Mexican version of that guitar in the same time frame.
Right.
So I'm looking, I'm like, this listing says it's worth 700 and this listing says it's worth 1300, and then you look a little closer, I'm like, one's Mexican, one's Japanese. So it gets really screwy with that stuff. But yeah, the vintage reissue vintage.
Yeah.
And it'll keep compounding. We get 200 years in the future, and there'll be 7 dates on every guitar.
Oh my gosh!
Like calling back which vintage it's referencing. It's
Totally.
it's the 2049, 2018, 2001, 1993, 63 reissue. Like you're gonna have to check all the boxes, and it'll be vintage.
Yeah.
Like all of that will be vintage. 200 years from now.
We want to punch into these the pedal index a bit, Cyril.
Yeah, we can hit the pedal index pretty quickly.
Sure.
So similar to the guitar index, we've built something that tracks pedals. This one is actually there's about 300 individual pedal prices that we're tracking, and the overall like story arc is very similar to what we saw with electric guitars, so no need to go through that again.
Sure.
But there's kind of like a few things I think that are different here. One is that used prices are now much closer compared to where they were in 2019. So guitar prices were about 20% higher. On the pedal side, they're 3 to 5% higher than they were in 2019. And part of what you can see here is there was like a little bit of a decrease in terms of the pricing going into the pandemic before things really took off, and then some more price erosion before that stabilization period. So that's like one of the things a little bit different. If you go to the next slide too, you actually see some like much bigger splits between the brands.
Yeah.
And in this case, the vintage.
Oh, that's all
and
Klon,
rare.
isn't it?
So there's Klein, there's Moger Fogers in there.
Right.
There's tape echoes, all that kind of stuff. And mentioning the Klein, this is actually a good time. I'm going to just do a quick plug for, we have a Klein.
There it is.
This is a real Klein.
Of course you've got it.
Of course. So we're going to run this promotion that's called Watch and Win. We're doing it every month. Basically, you just have to watch an item, on reverb.com, the website or the app, to be eligible to win a prize. And so in October, we're going to do this original Klon Centaur, horsey logo.
Get it on the screen. There
Yeah,
it is.
so you can get it full on. You can see
it's
it.
the real deal.
The real deal.
It's not a Warm. It's not a Behringer.
No Behringer.
That's cool.
Yeah. I got to plug into this thing a few times this week, and it is awesome. So anyway, sorry, that was a quick aside. I just had it sitting next to me, and I figured I had to tell people about it.
I'll let Steve put the chart back up. I don't want to mess something up. There we go.
I don't even know how you got to the screen you did. That was magical.
I just clicked the thing, the layout button.
Yeah. But the trends here overall, how does this index work for vintage and rare pedals that would fall into like my thought would be something like a Silver Screw DS1, which is undeniably, I would say, is a vintage, Boss pedal, but you also have a Boss line here. Would something like that be in both categories?
No, in the way that we broke this out, we kept the vintage rare category, independent or discrete from, the other like brand breakouts, which, for the most part, the brand breakouts are, things that are selling today or things that, may have been, say, like recently discontinued,
right.
Like a DD6 and a DD7 and a DD8, Boss delays are all going to be included in the Boss line. But, one of the original, what is it? The DM1, the original analog delay, that would be included in the vintage and rare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, we called this one vintage and rare in part because, some of the really iconic pedals, you probably wouldn't consider them vintage at this point.
Right.
Even, like a Klon, maybe that's borderline. But the other example is, like the Moger Fogers.
Sure.
Those were made, I think, until like the early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, those have like, they doubled in price between 2019 and 2022.
Oh,
so.
wow.
Yeah. You could probably have like King of Tones in there or something like that.
King
too.
of Tone. Yeah, exactly.
It's like still technically in production, but yeah. The resale market is just bonkers.
Yeah. I think like the original, were like the love pedals, some of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, you can kind of just see that there's this really big spike on the vintage side that's, stayed higher than, the rest of those lines.
To carry this back further, and we don't have the data presented here, so this is kind of speculatory on my part. Do you think it looks like the other category is down about 8 to 10%. Do you think that that's a reflection of kind of a crash out of the high end pedal market in general? I mean, so again, Ryan and I, we got into the podcast game like 10 years, a little over 10 years ago. And, I remember how hot everything seemed 2015, 2016, 2017. Every month, it seemed like you were hearing about a new pedal company coming out. And I had a pedal uh, on Reverb that I did finally sell. But I had a pedal on Reverb for like 5 years actually.
Wow.
Uh, it was like off and on, and I would take
Do
it
you
down.
want to say what
But
it was?
no,
Oh,
but it's because it's an existing, it's a discontinued pedal, I think, from a current existing brand.
uh-huh.
But I kind of wonder how, if that's kind of a reflection of a lot of what, brands that used to always get their retail price, and when they would show up used, there was very little drop.
Mm.
Um, and now, because those brands have gone out of business and people have kind of forgotten about them, they're on Reverb, but they don't hold value anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make
Pedals are
sense?
a
What I'm
bit
saying?
interesting in general because there's so many of them and there's so many builders out there making these things.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to be in the right scene to know about a lot of them,
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
everyone knows about every guitar that Fender or Gibson or, Ernie Ball or PRS comes out with. Like that,
Yeah.
that's just kind of like, it just covers the cultural gamut where, pedals are much more niche.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is driving this is along the lines of what you guys are saying, but just there's more saturation in the market.
Oh yeah.
So
Mhm.
when we looked at the number of essentially like products, like pedal products that we had in our database between 2018 and the end of 2024, it was up almost 75%. So it had nearly doubled just in terms of the amount of pedals that were available on the market during that
Mhm.
time. So there's just, a lot more options that, people have, some of them from the bigger brands, some of them from smaller brands. The other thing that is, I think, driving the decrease here is, some examples like, Strymon, where, they released the V2 of a lot of their pedals kind of
Right.
in this time frame, and you see the price of V1s, pretty steady, and then V2 comes out and you see a pretty big
Mm,
price drop, kind of similar to, I don't know, like an iPhone, right? The new
sure.
iPhone
Yeah.
comes out,
Yeah.
the older model goes down in price a bit, and of course there's exceptions to that. Sometimes people want the original one more, but
Mhm.
that also seemed to just drive down that other category, price point a bit more, where there was just like these, different variations that were coming out, that
Right.
the original one would lose some of that resale value.
No, that makes sense. I bet, with even with like something like the Strymon Brig coming out, it probably hurt the general sales of the Brigadier a little,
Yeah.
things like that, for
the
sure.
the other one that's interesting is Electro Harmonics, which
Mhm.
did better than most of the brands, and at least better meaning that the prices have stayed
Sure.
elevated.
Yeah.
Um, and that was when I was trying to think about like why that
Yeah.
happened, and in some ways, it's it's I think it might have to do with there are more iterations of like different pedals, and I don't know. I'm just
Mhm.
looking over here. I've got like 3 variations of a Big Muff just sitting on this desk here.
Yeah.
The
And
Right.
that
Russian
probably
one, the
barely scratches the surface of muffs,
yeah, totally right. There's
just from one
probably
brand.
200 versions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's just because there's all these iterations that each version actually like maintains some value because of its uniqueness, and
Right.
I don't know, just the way that Electro
Also, like,
Harmonics.
Electro Harmonics has done a fairly decent job of staying somewhat affordable starting out.
Yeah.
They have some bigger pedals that are multiple hundreds of dollars, but most of their line that people know them for, you expect to pay like 130, 150 for them. So there's not a lot of value to lose, and I bet there's a line for Reverb and for online sellers, where people go, well, it's just not really worth to ship something below a certain value.
Right.
So if they don't think they can get a normal value for it, they might just not list it.
I think with the HX2, we could be seeing how the prices kind of change over time. I don't know if EHX makes the black Big Muff anymore. That was always the one that was a little cheaper. I think they may have replaced it with another model. So if you want a big box, you know, you're going to pay a little bit more. And this kind of gets into like the inflation stuff, and it gets kind of confusing, because I remember when you could get a brand new like the black Big Muff, the I don't know what version that is, but it's like the they had the Russian one, and then they had the American one, which was the silver case, right? And they were selling them at the same time. And I think the black one was like 60 or 70 bucks new, and the other one was like 80 or 90 bucks new. I wonder how that plays in as their prices go up, but they maintain popularity, and so it just drives the factor a little more. Whereas Boss, I think Boss pedals, is a DS1 still 40 bucks? Did it finally go up?
Yeah, DS1 will be 40 bucks forever. Like this
DS1 $70 now.
Really?
No, yeah, they went up.
Man.
Yeah, they went up. At least the brand new price.
Yeah.
Well, that is $40 in today's money. So
yeah. Can't even feed my family dinner for 40 bucks. It's
right,
crazy.
right. The DS1 has always been like it's like the New York slice to Subway ratio. Like we need to figure
Right.
out what the DS1 is equal to. Like, is it a DS1 is always equal to taking your family out for McDonald's or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
it used to be $40 and now it's 70.
All right. You got some of this stuff thrown together. I think this is really fascinating. The fastest selling gear on Reverb this summer. One question I had, we don't have the slide for this, and that's fine, and I'm not going to find it to add it in, but like I said, if folks want to check out the pedal index, and I think we've kind of answered this anyway. One of the questions I had is whether or not a flood of product into a category, because on the pedal index originally it was broken down into like modulation, distortion, delay, multi-effects, these different things. And the one that held their value the least was multi-effects, which makes sense in some ways, because, you know, as when every time quad neural comes out with a new product, the prices of the Line 6 HX Stomp go down a little bit more. But the question that I had that's kind of to that, and I think I know the answer, but I'll ask the question anyway, is when a company like Zoom or Sonic Cake comes out with their latest version of a multi-effect that's under $100, how does that affect the index itself, like the results?
Yeah. So I think it's an interesting one because the product mix in this case isn't really changing. So
Right.
as new products are introduced, at least in this kind of iteration of the index, we haven't updated like with a new mix. But I think indirectly it does affect the price, and particularly for multi effects, which are, I would just say, like more technology driven than probably any other category on here, right? Where
Yeah.
each iteration of um like the Boss multi effects unit, or when you bring something in like the Quad Cortex or the Tone X, that kind of makes some of the older versions of those multi effects units a little less, I don't know, just relevant,
Right.
or
Right.
a little bit more obsolete, I would say. So we did see bigger price decrease for used, particularly within multi effects.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of what I suspected, that because of the way the index is set up, the newer items wouldn't have been included. But yeah, it makes sense that they would still have a drag effect, as like an indirect impact to the chart. So
Yeah.
cool. Let's see. We're looking at the fastest selling gear on Reverb this summer. Of course, as of recording, there's like 3 days of summer left. So
don't bum
but
me out.
I think what's funny is I've been seeing people start to call the end of September and like October, the entire month of October, Southern California summer, because it's when all the tourists leave. And so, but it's still warm enough that you can enjoy the outdoors and stuff. But but now the beach isn't crowded anymore.
Yeah.
I get bummed out at the end of summer. I never feel like I really enjoyed it as much as I could have. Like, oh man, I barely did anything this summer. Now it's over.
But
Even though
yeah,
I've done a lot,
Cyril, tell us about some of
Or what
these
should I sell?
and how fast some of these things sold.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put this together because I know there were a few questions that came up around like, quickest selling items, things that have been on Reverb for a long time. So, just tried to put together a few examples. And actually our team will go and create articles, every month or two
Right.
around like things that are fastest selling. So I just wanted to grab a few of these, but this actually kind of harkens back to one of the examples you were talking about earlier, which is reissue of a vintage guitar. This is one of the MIJ, made in Japan Fender Rosewood Telecasters. This one sold in 2 minutes. So
Wow.
someone listed it, buys it right away. And I think what's kind of one thing that I've noticed that I didn't know until I worked at Reverb is just like how much inventory is like coming and going on the platform.
Yeah.
We get like
Oh, yeah.
7,000 listings a day.
How
That's
many
crazy.
sales are there happening a day?
We won't get into that, but like,
Oh, okay.
it's you can imagine like a lot of these things are selling quickly.
Sure.
Around 60% of items when they're like priced well, they'll sell within a week. So
Gotcha.
really what happens is if you're not kind of like on, like setting up a feed or a watch list and paying attention, if something that you want comes on, it may disappear before you even knew that it existed. So
Yeah.
like the thing, I don't know, again, like, I don't know, insider baseball or something, but when I got here, I was like, oh man, I got to set up my feed. I got to make sure that I have all these saved searches for, stuff that I'm really interested, like this Rosewood Telecaster. I would love one of these things because when they come up, they sell really quickly.
Yeah. So everyone's watching that search and when it pops up,
watching the search,
go for it.
Yeah, whoever's got like the fastest trigger finger is the one who gets it.
I remember in the early days of Reverb, there was like almost like a ticker feed at the bottom of all the new stuff coming in, and I would just sit there and watch it and just like, oh, do I want that? Do I want that? And like just keep scrolling through as stuff came through.
Yeah, there are still ways to get that. You just need to kind of filter it down. Otherwise, again, it's like a fire hose of stuff. That, most of it is probably not interesting to you now. When the volume was lower, it was easier to just kind of have that like refresh. I used to do that with Craigslist too back in the day, right? Where it's just you're looking at it every 5 minutes, you see something pop up, you jump on it. But yeah, with this volume, the feed is really like a great way to be able to see these things. So anyways, this one sold in 2 minutes. There's a few other examples we can.
Yeah, we've got a Generation Lost Mark II, which are these discontinued again? I don't remember.
I think these ones are discontinued. Sure. Yeah, but this one, this one sold in 30 seconds. So just,
oh my gosh.
Now, when things sell that fast, if I'm a seller and I list something, I sold something a while ago. I don't remember what it was. It sold in 1 day. I felt like it meant my price was too low. But in the case of something like this, is there just kind of a price point that they all just sell at and it's always going to go fast? You're either going to hit that price point or you're not.
Yeah. And this one sold a little bit below the usual price. I think this one sold for like $305. They're kind of going for $325, maybe $350. So part of, what a lot of sellers will do is if you just sell it a little, price it a little bit below the, like typical selling price. And especially if you look at what else is live on the site, you put it, a little bit below that and you'll sell it really quickly.
That's always my move.
Yeah.
I'll like sell 50 pedals at a time once a year, just unload them all at the same time. And I always just like, okay, what are all the listings? I'll just be $2 cheaper than the next cheapest person, just to make sure it sells.
Well, and the flip side of that is to that point, Cyril, if this is coming in $10, $15, $20 less than where everyone else is, I think as consumers, as deal hunters, we have a tendency to we want to haggle always. Like you want to haggle for the win, and you want to feel like you beat the seller even when you don't need to.
Right.
And it's something I learned doing Craigslist years ago is sometimes you just got to say, call, on Craigslist, it was always emails. Sometimes you just got to email the guy and say, I can be at an ATM in 15 minutes and to your house is, within an hour of you giving me the address. I will pay full price, and you hit send. Because as soon as you try to haggle on something that's already a great deal,
Right.
if the sellers, sometimes they know that they're selling underpriced, and they, as soon as you start to try to haggle with them, they're just like, no, no, like I'm not dealing with haggling. This is my price. I know it's $20 less than everything else, so it will sell fast.
Yeah. Most people want things just to be easy.
Yeah, exactly. And, part of it too is if you want to sell it quickly and you want that money and I don't know, you're saving up for the next pedal or, next guitar, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's worth it to just sell it for $10 less. So you have
Yeah.
the money
Yeah.
right away versus, the higher the
I've
price it, like you're just going to probably take longer to sell the item.
I've had so many deals fall through because we were haggling over $5. Like they want it $5 cheaper, and I'm like, no, on principle, I'm not doing $5 cheaper. And I was like, it's $5.
Yeah.
Like, do you actually want the thing or not? And do I actually want to sell it? Like, why are we both being so unreasonable here? Just let's split the difference.
Yeah. To that point, and this is kind of going to take a big left-hand turn before we carry on. But in terms of getting paid, Reverb just came out with the wallet feature. What I haven't been able to figure out what exactly it is, how it works. I know it keeps your money on the site. I understand that part of it, and apparently you get like 1% back. I'm not, again, I'm not really sure how that is that something that you can speak to?
Yeah, this thing is awesome. At least I love this new feature. I
Hmm.
think about it as basically the gear fund, right?
Right.
Right.
So it's pretty simple in how it works. If you're in the US, when you sell something, you keep it on the wallet, you get a 1% cashback bonus.
Hmm.
So, then you can use that extra 1% if you buy something on Reverb. So think, you sell your Boss DD7, you get $100 payout, it's worth $101.
Okay.
So the 1% is like a nice bonus, but kind of the way like I've been using it, we got early access to it is it's like a good savings account for like
Hmm.
your next thing that you want to
Right.
buy. So I don't know, I've been like saving up for this drum machine that's, probably more than I should pay, but whatever. I know exactly how much it costs. And, I'm just like selling pedals. I had a cymbal sitting out and I'm like, okay, I can get like $50 for that. You sell it, you put it in the wallet, and all that gear that's lying around is like really easy to fund that next purchase. And you don't really have to like, pay out of pocket, quote unquote, because now you've just
Yeah.
kept all the
Right.
funds in one place,
It sounds
which
like it's a good option for people who want to like manage their gear budget and don't necessarily need cash. Because like once you turn it into cash, and it's like, well, that money's turned into food and rent and
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
yeah.
and it's hard to be like, well, where's my $800 from that thing that I sold? Like, oh, it's just gone now. Where if you're someone who's trying to manage a gear budget as part of the hobby, as part of the game,
Hmm.
then that sounds like something that might be attractive for those people. It's probably not for everyone, but for those people who want to
Yeah.
be specific about their budget, like sounds compelling.
Are there any other fees that are like waived in the wallet as part of this? Like because you're not doing a bank transfer, I don't know if there's things that are impacted on that end as well. Um I'm
No,
sure
it's just
some of the fees still exist, I would think, but
yeah, it's just the 1% that you
oh,
get
okay.
back.
Yeah.
When you essentially like turn it into a gift card is
Yeah.
what
So
that
it's like
works.
instead
Gotcha.
of, I think right now in total it's like with the credit card and everything else, it's like around 8%. So instead, it's like a 7% fee. So,
Exactly.
which is
Exactly.
like, again, it's fine. I get people throw at me all the time, like, oh, what about this and what about that? And for me, there's two big draws to Reverb. It's how fast things come and go, and it's the number of units that exist. You know, the fact that we've said on the show when we talk about reverb, is my take on it is like, if I can't find it as a current or sold listing on Reverb, then I start to question whether or not it even existed.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because it's such a massive database that's useful for just like, you want to learn the history of a product, go on Reverb and search for it. And because somebody might have written a really good description about a pedal 8 years ago, and that is the only documentation that exists for that pedal.
The reality
It's
is
crazy.
that we found if you can't find it on Reverb, you probably spelled it wrong.
Yeah.
That's fixed.
They fixed that?
Is it?
I've spelling check now?
I've gotten spell checked on Reverb.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I know that was one of the things you guys, mentioned, and one of the pain points, for using Reverb, and I can also like empathize with that as someone who's on Reverb for every waking moment of the day.
Yeah, and also
Shocker.
I'm someone who's bad at spelling, so it's a unique affliction for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might not be good enough to fix your spelling, though. I'm not sure.
But yeah, we've made some major improvements there. The other thing that just came to mind, Ryan, I know you were talking, this was maybe like a few episodes ago too, of a Jaguar with a Floyd Rose.
Yeah.
There's one on Reverb.
Steve, is that the one that you sent me?
That's the one I sent.
So the problem was it's 25.5-inch scale. I want a 24-inch scale with a Floyd.
I think it's also a 7-string too.
Oh, well, it's a lot of different things. Here,
it's not the real one, but
there
it is. Yeah. Oh, it's the Edwards.
Yeah.
Which is an ESP brand, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild looking for sure. But I just want like a Jaguar, just where all the hardware is replaced with just a Floyd, but you still got the single coil, still have the scale length. I think it'd be fun.
This was the closest thing I could find.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the closest we're ever gonna get.
Nothing will ever get it. Fender will get the hint eventually. They'll make one.
Well, I just got to blow up the channel so that they'll make me a custom shop thing or whatever. Artist run.
Yeah, is that going to be like your signature model?
Yeah, and then I'll get the first one and I'll try it out and be like, never mind, I don't like it.
Yeah, this wasn't as cool as I thought it would be.
Sorry, Fender.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump back into this guy.
They're not banging on my door to make custom shop instruments for me because it's dumb ideas every time.
What's the deal with this?
I have no idea.
But it sold fast.
But it sold in 2 minutes. Again, just like
there's
is
that a Mission audio expression pedal?
I think
I
so.
think that's what it is.
It's a Rewa. It's called a Rewa, which
Rewa.
I've never played one, but
so if you've de-wawed, you can re-waw?
I guess so.
Huh.
But if you want one of these, you better watch it because they're going to sell quickly.
Apparently.
And then we had another one, the last pedal on here, which is
this looks cool.
Guild, which
fun.
I didn't even realize they made pedals, but they made a Foxy Lady.
Mm-hmm.
They probably didn't. It's probably like a EHX brand or something like that.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it actually.
Yeah. Someone else made it. That was a big thing with those brands back then. Is it'd be like, okay, well we'll have, that's how there's like the Vox Waz versus the Crybaby Waz and stuff like that. There's all getting made by the same people, but they would rebrand stuff.
Yeah, so this one sold in like 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Nice.
So just a bunch of quick stuff that sells.
That must be fun for the seller. Just like, I just listened to this all the way to, whoa, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I got to get my shipping materials together. Print a label.
All right. And now I asked for this gear that's been on Reverb a while. I thought maybe we could maybe help some of these sellers out. I don't know. But first up, we've got this. I mean, I think the thing that would help this seller out the most is just to burn it.
Oh, it's not that bad.
It actually looks like it's well built.
Gene looks a little bit surprised that it hasn't sold.
Yeah.
He's like, how come this hasn't sold yet? His face changes as it stays up. Like, come on, buy me.
Yeah, I thought this one was kind of funny too. It's just it's just an Ibanez RGT 24
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that someone painted.
I know those numbers
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
I always think it's a problem when you, and this is a perfect example of this actually, when you like, did anybody in Kiss play one of these? I think one of the guitar players played like an Ibanez Destroyer maybe. And then Ace Frehley, of course, was like a Les Paul guy. So if it was either of those guitars that you airbrushed this onto, or airbrushed, or whatever this finish is, then it would kind of it would be on brand. But this just kind of seems a little random.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, because what, Paul Staley, didn't he play the Iceman?
They've all
Yeah,
like
I think so. Yeah.
everything Kiss has ever done has had a check attached to it. Anytime a brand shows up with a check, like, "Hey, you guys want a signature guitar?" The answer has been yes. So there's a lot of Kiss signature guitars out there.
So
How long has this been up? Do you know?
yeah, this has been up for a few years. So I think all the guitars on here have been up for at least 5 years.
God,
This
Wow.
one's like a little longer.
this one looks really cool, and I'm surprised. I have to imagine the only reason it hasn't sold is it must just be priced too high. Because I kind of want it.
I know this
Is it a
thing.
real Mosrite?
It's a real Mosrite. It's a double neck with
Yeah.
one's just like, I guess, like a shorter scale, and yeah, it was played by Roy Nichols. The picture on the right is cool because it's him playing the guitar, but
Yeah.
you can see Merrill Haggard's playing bass in this band. So this one's
That's crazy.
I mean, it's awesome. It's just one of those guitars that you got to find the right buyer to come along, and
Yeah.
who really wants the double the double neck Mosrite.
Right. Every like pawn shop and used shop that I've ever been in has a double neck Mosrite hanging on the wall, and it's like, is it for sale or is it just here permanently, sort of thing? There's such odd birds, but those were like the rock star instruments of the time, because Mosrite was a big kind of like Bakersfield sound brand. So all that country picking from the 60s and the 70s was all about Mosrite.
Yeah.
And so you had these hybrids in between guitar and mandolin and stuff.
Yeah. What this reminds me of is the Gibson harp. We did we talked about those maybe a couple years ago, and how the Gibson harp feels like it should be up there in the rarefied air of, pre-war Martins, where it's just worth tons and tons of money. But because it's a weird Gibson model and not a Gibson that they're known for, I think they're on Reverb between like 6,000 and 10,000, which, don't get me wrong, is a lot of money, but for an instrument that was from like the 1910s, 1920s, from a brand like Gibson, in my head, I'm like, this should be like $50,000.
Well, no one who knows how to play them is alive anymore.
Well, that's pretty much it. We actually have one person in our audience who owns one that I'm aware of, and basically
only one. You've got to have a backup.
Yeah. No, well, he owns one, and it's only one person. I don't have a backup person either. But I think he kind of had to teach himself how to make sounds with it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a guitar,
Right. It's something else.
But it's got that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things are cool. I've never actually played one. Have you guys ever played one?
No.
I've seen one under glass, but I've never touched one.
And then this last one, this looks super cool. This is Steven Stills model. Is that what it is?
It's just one that he owned.
He owned it.
Okay.
Yeah, D'Angelico, New Yorker.
Is this a legit vintage one, or is this a modern one?
No, legit vintage.
Wow.
Like certificate of authenticity and everything.
Was it
from 1960?
Listed at?
It's listed, I think, for $200,000. So
okay. All right.
That's it.
Got to find the right buyer for that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's been on the site for a while, but
is this listed?
Awesome.
Is this out of somebody's personal collection? Is this like an artist store thing, or?
This is. It's actually a shop that's out in France,
Oh,
and
okay.
Ah.
yeah,
Whenever I see stuff like this that's priced in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, I always wonder, like, is that a, contact me sort of price? Like, hey,
Mm.
like, let's get our accountants involved in figuring out what this thing's actually going to sell for here.
Ryan,
Because it
if you
feels like a little bit
contact
like
them,
there needs to be a mortgage involved.
Ryan, if you contact them and take it off site, you're going to get your account deleted.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's more like, let's figure out the actual price
Mm.
in the chat,
Yeah. I mentioned this on a recent episode. That's the biggest complaint that I've seen about Reverb. Like, I think there's like legitimately there are things that people can complain about. Not everybody has the best customer service experience with like, and that's how any retailer goes. But
Well,
when
if
people,
you're on Reverb having a customer service experience, you're probably already having a bad time because something's happened. Because just most of the time it's just supposed to be automated, so you're probably going into it grumpy.
yeah, but when people complain about like, oh, I sold this in person to somebody, da 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 da, da, and they invoiced me for their rate, and I'm like, well, yeah,
You were chatting about it
duh.
on the site.
Like, don't be like, there's
Right.
nothing surprising about it. When I did it, I bought one of, actually it's right, no, it's right here. You can see the white edge of this guitar right here. I bought that through Reverb with
Let's
an
take a look.
in-person transaction. Are you trying to, when you zoomed in and actually cut it out of
Oh, shoot. I removed him. There
it's
you go.
fine.
There you go.
I'm
You're
not going to
back.
grab it. It's fine. But oh,
There, I
now it's
figured
just
it
me.
out. There it
It's
is. We
right
can
there
see
on
this
the edge.
exciting guitar.
You only see the white edge of it right here. But I bought that on Reverb. It was a local pickup, so I saved shipping, which was awesome. But the way we did it is I went there um, and when the guy handed me the guitar, I inspected it, and then he pulled up his Reverb app and marked it as shipped. And pulled up my Reverb app and marked it as, actually, I don't think I had to mark anything. I just gave him feedback right away, right there, and then everything
To
was
his
done. He got
face.
his, what's
You're
that?
like, hey, you were communicative. You were
Yeah,
polite. Like
yeah,
you just told him.
yeah. So when that's where when people complain about that stuff, I'm just like, no, you use the app to find your buyer or find your
Right.
seller. Like, just do the right, to me it's like, it's almost like a right thing kind of a thing.
No, it
So
totally is. Like I've had multiple people over the years be like, hey, can we take this off site so we don't have to pay the fees? Like, well, you just asked me on site, so no.
yeah,
What are you
real
doing? You're trying to get us both kicked off? Like, I like selling here. Stop it.
yeah.
People are always
Oh,
trying to be sneaky with something, and it's like, no, that the connecting buyers and sellers is the service of Reverb.
yeah.
Like, that's the service of it. So when you try to sidestep that, you're just being a jerk, really.
yeah, totally. And I guess like part of it too is if you don't go through the normal process, if anything goes wrong, then Reverb can't step in and help out either.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
I mean, but there's just also just doing the right thing and not trying to like, have a quarter on a string so you can get a free soda pop. Like that's what
Yeah.
people are trying to do.
I
those scenarios.
previewed this deck a little. I previewed the whole deck before just to make sure I could load in and everything. Ryan, did you look at the deck at all? You coming in? You
No,
came in
no,
cold,
I'm
right?
I'm flying blind
All
here.
right.
I like being surprised.
I want to let you react to this next slide before we talk
All
about it.
right, that's why I didn't look. I remember these two.
I
We
think
covered these like probably second or third year of the show.
yeah, this is one of the older, these two guitars. We've talked about these on the guitar on
Are
the
they
show.
still for sale?
No, apparently they sold on Reverb this summer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, because those we covered those years and years ago. That's wild that they've been up for so long.
Yeah. They're just like one of those, like, again, I'm just searching on Reverb all the time. This one came
Yeah.
up and it was like, wow,
Were
these things are awesome.
were they sold as a pair?
It was sold as a pair. Yeah.
Wow.
Perfect.
So I think we've sold a few of them individually, just like
Mhm.
the Batman guitar. And I believe the Joker guitar. I've seen
Yeah.
just a few of
Yeah.
the Batmans. I think the Joker's actually pretty rare. So this is one where, you know, someone had both of, you know, the, I guess, full collection, both the Batman and Joker guitar, and really nice condition, selling them together. I just thought these were pretty cool.
A past bandmate of mine reproduced the Batman one. He had a Batman costume when he was a kid, and he cut the Batman emblem off and and glued it to his guitar. So it's like this, you know, Michael Keaton era correct child's costume logo. There was like this raised foam, and he glued it down to a black SG. And it's a similar look, but I know this one's got like a custom headstock and stuff.
Yeah, I wish I'd actually gotten another picture of the headstock, because it's got, you know, like the Joker's head and Batman's head.
Yeah.
You can kind of see it here, but
Were these ESP?
no, these were custom made by John Bolin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there were maybe 50, 40 made of each one.
Right.
So real limited run.
The Joker one's so cool.
What's weird about, I don't, what is this?
Hold on a minute. Didn't the Joker one have a button that you would press and it would have like a little electronic laugh?
There is a button right
vaguely.
here. It looks like there's a button right here, like just next to the knob. So maybe.
Yeah, I think that was one of the features. It have a laugh built in. And it was what's his name from the
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson. I think it was Jack Nicholson's laugh or whatever.
I was going to say Mark Hamill.
I wish.
Cyril, you threw this one on here. Ryan is a Rickenbacker hater, so you're going to have to explain to us why this is cool and or weird.
I don't know if I'm a hater. I'm more of a skeptic. I'm more of a troll, really. I just don't get along with them, and for some reason that pisses people off on the internet, and I like to lean into that as often as possible. Because if you're pissing off people on the internet, you're getting clicks, and that's the business I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought this was awesome. It's one of the Rickenbacker like model numbers are super confusing, because this is a 1997 model, which was, they were made for Rose Morris. These were kind of like the UK only versions, and they have the F hole rather than, you know, like the cat eye.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So they're a little less common. This one was played by Jem Archer, he played with Oasis and I think some of the Gallagher brothers' other bands as well, like the High Flying Birds, and I think like BDI, I think is another one. So anyways, I thought this was a really cool guitar. You don't see like this kind of configuration on the Ricks quite as often. It's also got the trapeze tailpiece versus the R on there.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't have the Made in USA sticker though, so it's worthless now. That's why it hasn't sold. Someone took the sticker off.
No, it's sold. Right, it's sold.
Yeah.
Oh, this one sold. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe someone found an aftermarket sticker to put on it.
Let's check out this next one. This is rugged. Is this this is
Mojo though, you know?
50? Is this a 50s Les Paul?
Yeah, this was a 53 gold top that someone just painted black, I think in the 60s or 70s. And then over time, like the black has kind of chipped off a little bit, particularly on the pickguard, you can see it.
Yeah.
But it's just like real nasty. Kind of has got like the Neil Young vibe to it or something.
So there's a gold top hiding underneath.
There's a gold
black.
top, hiding underneath.
That'd be a fun relic.
And of course, it's got the Bixby on there. Yeah.
This is great. Now, this Gibson, like I'm sure on some back end way you could figure out who bought it. Obviously, we don't want that information, but it would be fun if Gibson bought this with the intent of like making a Murphy Lab version of this, because I think this is a really cool vibe.
You want the Murphy Lab to take a gold top and then spray paint it black, including the pick guard. All right,
I think that would be sick.
Get on it, Murph.
I think that would be a lot of fun. I think it's got like you said, it's that Neil Young. It's this crusty, beat to hell. It kind of, what it really reminds me of is like
It's got a bit
what's
of
the
a pirate vibe to it.
the social Mike Ness. It's giving me Mike
Sure.
Ness personally. Social Distortion. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's neat that
Cool.
it has the Bixby Sorkin bridge on there too. Like they went for the full Bixby layout.
The Aaron Sorkin bridge.
I don't know who that is, but yes.
And what the hell
What is
this?
that?
This is another cool one. And we've been talking about guitars and pedals the whole time.
It's like a suitcase
guitars
synth.
Yeah, exactly. So guitars and pedals are a big part of Reverb, but we actually sell a ton of synths, ton of pro audio gear, drums and like percussion's a big category, but some of the vintage synth stuff is super cool. So this is an EMS Synthy. And these were made in the 70s. This is actually kind of like a recreation of one of those that was like custom built, but it's I think like David Bowie used one of these. Brian Eno had one. It's kind of one of these like classic synths that you hear on a lot of those like 70s records. And
I just saw the price and died a little bit.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
I'm gonna guess $35,000.
No, you're actually a little over, but you're in the
ballpark.
Oh
man,
they're like 20. I'm seeing the cheapest ones I'm seeing might be rebuilds at like 10 grand, and then the ones that actually have the keyboard still are like 30 to 35.
Okay, all right, I was in the neighborhood.
It's pretty wild.
I'm actually surprised it got so close.
I guess coming from the guitar world, we just kind of assume that guitars are the number, or probably guitars or guitar pedals are the number one thing sold on Reverb. How far down, or like what kind of market, what kind of like Reverb share, like do you have an idea of what, like, say the top 5 categories on Reverb are and what percentage of sales those actually take up?
Yeah, I mean, if you look across all the different, like, I don't know, guitar category, guitars, amps, pedals, that's 50%, a little bit more than that. And then, synths, pro audio, and drums are really like the next 3 biggest categories. We also sell, band and orchestra instruments. We've got like home hi-fi. So, there, and, like, I think I said folk, band, and orchestra. So there's a handful of different categories that we sell in, but synths is actually a really big market for us. There's tons of like the vintage synths, but also, there's been, I'd say like, also just resurgence with, like Euro rack, and a lot of companies are in the same way that guitar companies are. Synth companies are reissuing some of the old like analog synths that they used to make, or revamping them. So it's
every now and then we see synth drama bleed into our online spaces. And I was like, wow, these guys are really passionate over there about this little blooper box.
With the various categories, I know some of you're starting to see this with some of the bigger retailers in the new gear space, where they're starting to carry kind of creator centric equipment, some basic lighting. I think Sweetwater sells an entire like podcasting 101 rig now, where that's like a camera and a couple key lights and an interface and all this stuff. Is I know you can buy like the what am I trying to say? I know you can buy the interfaces on Reverb, that you could probably buy a Rodecaster or whatever. But is there any plans, you think, for Reverb to kind of get into more of that creator space in terms of like the lighting and cameras and things like that?
Yeah, what I would say is like we're really focused on the musician and the music gear part of it. Reverb was built by musicians for musicians. We're probably like too obsessed with just understanding the music, like catalog and all this gear. So that's really where we've been focused. And you're like, rather than try to be a marketplace that can sell a little bit of everything,
right?
And maybe for a retailer, like Sweetwater Guitar Center, it's a little easier, but we really want to make sure that we have just the best experience for buying and selling music gear. So that's really where we've been focused. And you're like, rather than try to be a marketplace that can sell a little bit of everything, maybe for a retailer, like Sweetwater Guitar Center, it's a little easier, but we really want to make sure that we have just the best experience for buying and selling music instruments.
Yeah. At some point, I guess you kind of start becoming like, we've always said, when people ask what reverb is, especially early, when reverb first started, we kind of always just said like, well, reverb is eBay, but it's only guitars. And at some point,
It's kind of like if Amazon was only for books,
but at some point, it's like you start adding on. If you start adding on too much, like I said, like cameras, thinking about like your rig in your space, Ryan, like at what point is a 20-inch monitor part of a
Right.
creator rig, and then it's just now reverb is eBay meets Best Buy, and
Right. Like
it is
if you're
too
selling
it is too big.
cameras, then you're going to end up selling DVD players, and then you're selling VHS rewinders, and then you've turned
Just
into
rewind.
a different type of swap meet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm all for the VHS rewinder, so that might be the next category we need to
You want the
expand
one that's
into.
shaped like a race car.
Yeah.
Yeah. We made it to the end of the deck. I think we're gonna start maybe winding down, but we do have I think a couple other questions I did want to hit. Of course, initially when we tried to schedule this, I think was back in May, June, in that time frame, which is right around the time that Reverb was sold by Etsy to the combo of Servco and Creator Partners. How's that transition gone um, for you personally? How has that affected your personal life, Cyril?
Yeah, so far it's been great,
Mhm.
and I think about just Servco and Creator, and I've worked closely with a lot of the people, from those companies, leading up to the acquisition, and since we've been, owned by uh, Servco and Creator, and I think what's great is they're very focused on the music industry.
Yeah,
I think probably most people know, but Servco owns Fender. They've owned Fender since the 80s. They
yeah,
were one of the
yeah.
investors that bought it from CBS. So they've really like had the music industry in their DNA for a really
Hmm.
long time. And, Creator Partners, is started by Kerry Trainer, and he was with SoundCloud and Vimeo. So there's like a lot of just music and this, I just say, like creative energy that's
Right.
built into their outlook on things. And is again, you can kind of see with the like longevity of how Servco's worked with Fender. It's like a
Hmm.
long-term play versus, I don't know. You can think of like private equity in a lot of different ways, and a lot of times it's more of buy a company, maybe like turn it around, do something, offload it to the next set of investors, or
Yeah.
combine it with something else, and you know that's just not, at least from what I've seen, their intention at all. So it's really to help Reverb sustain for the long run, and
Hmm.
I think that's good for everyone in the industry, because we're really committed to just making sure that we have a great place to buy and sell used gear.
Yeah. I feel like I have to ask this for myself and my own emotional state. Do you feel like, with the relationship now between Reverb and Servco, do you feel like there's any kind of external pressure to, like, hey, can you guys like just give some free bumps to Fender gear?
No, and that might sound strange, but I don't think Servco even wants Reverb and Fender to be too intertwined,
Right.
because we're operating as separate companies. We work with Gibson, we work with PRS.
Hmm.
I think one of the last videos we did was with Paul Reed Smith. Uh, we've got relationships with a lot of these dealers, that are also working with different brands. So I don't think they really have much incentive to try to create
Yeah.
like
Sure.
too
Yeah.
much overlap between Reverb and Fender. If anything, it's, I think better for them from, I don't know, an investment standpoint, to have two, companies that are operating in the same space, but have different parts in the market. We're
Yeah.
on the U
Maybe
side,
they,
I, I
Fenders,
guess I guess I
new.
should clarify. So that's kind of what my thought on it was. But I see these things, and somebody actually, I watched a video recently where somebody referred to it as like, Reverb is owned by Fender, and this was a video like I saw a week ago, and I just wanted to throw my phone across the room. I'm like, it's like these
That's
people
your resting
don't
state,
understand.
though, Steve.
What's that?
That's your resting state. It's
That's true.
always
That's
wanting
true.
to throw your
It's
phone
just
across the
it's
room.
just one of those things that's like not understanding. Like the company I work for is owned by private equity, who also I think owns Bausch and Lomb. We don't get free glasses.
Right.
Like
Right.
we don't know each other exists.
Right.
So-
Like, there's a difference between being owned by Fender and being owned by the same company that owns Fender. Like,
Exactly.
you know,
exactly.
there's a distinction to be made there.
So
But also,
that's kind of what I
think
figured, but I actually I wanted to hear it. I wanted to feel justified with my anger.
after a dozen years of us being in the media side of the industry, like I feel like we have a pretty strong beat on the temperature of the industry that, like, everyone kind of understands that your average consumer out there isn't only buying one brand. Like, everyone
Yeah.
has collections that features every brand. Like, everyone wants a little bit of everything. So it's like, it's not really a competitive space in that way where it's like, well, we need to dominate one brand over another in this space. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. Like, someone wants to play their Gibson guitar through a Fender amp with an Electro Harmonix pedal board and everything else in between. It's a mixed bag where, you know, it's a rising tide raises all ships sort of thing. So
Yeah, exactly. It's like if more people are playing guitar, playing instruments,
right.
making music, it's better for everyone.
Absolutely. So it's like I've said before, like, I don't even see like the big two, Fender and Gibson, as competitors. They both make guitars
yeah.
and amps and stuff, but they're not competitors because, like, they're not competing for the same market share. Like, if someone wants a Les Paul, they're going to Gibson. If someone wants a Strat, they're going to Fender, and so on and so on. Like, it's different cultural kind of like products.
Yeah.
Well, we've done over 2 hours. I don't I don't know if how much of that honestly, I'm probably not going to trim very much of
No,
it.
don't cut any of it. It's all good. This is going to be for the nerdy audience members that really want to hear about the numbers.
We could go through like a half a dozen or so more questions, but I don't really want to. I've had
Let's
a great
save it
time,
for
though.
10 years from now when we're checking it out on the vintage
for
market.
2020 or 2035.
Exactly. And then 2045, and we'll probably still be around 2055.
Is there
put it on the calendar?
Is there any sort of I don't know, messaging that you need to get out as part of your obligation as a Reverb employee? There probably isn't, but I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, like I said, we've had the watch and win giveaway with the Klein. I'll guess I can feature it one more time.
Giving away a Klein is a wild move.
So
you could pay a lot of bills with that thing. You guys got 200 employees. You could throw a hell of a pizza party if you just sold it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pizza.
You'd be surprised how much pizza people can eat.
No, you're preaching to the choir on that one. I can eat a lot of pizza.
All right. Well, I've had a ton of fun. This is, like I said, this is, I think, turned out exactly the way I wanted to, which is I just wanted to have fun. I've had fun. I hope you and Ryan have had fun. But
I always have fun.
Yeah, this has been great. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah,
cool.
I love the podcast and the show. So it's just awesome to be able to talk to you guys and goof around a little bit.
In that case, bye everybody.
All right.
Stay grounded.